Capitol Hill and represented the U.S. at international human rights and religious freedom conferences. His writings have appeared in every major national news publication, including the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, and Los Angeles Times. His interviews have been featured on national and international news outlets, including CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and C-SPAN. Because he believes that community development is essential to fully integrating Muslims within America's pluralism, Brother Salam Al-Marayati has facilitated hundreds of civic engagement workshops around the country, from groups of 5 people to conference halls of hundreds. Brother Salam Al-Marayati is an adjunct faculty member at Bayan Claremont, a board member of the Muslim Reform Institute, an advisor to several political, civic, and academic institutions seeking to understand the role of Islam and Muslims in America and throughout the world. Deeply involved in interfaith activities, Brother Salam was co-chair of the Interfaith Coalition to Heal Los Angeles, which formed in the wake of the 1992 Los Angeles uprisings. Please give a warm welcome to Brother Salam Al-Marayati.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. That's very, very generous introduction, Erica. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, first of all. Welcome to this, our Islamic Center. And as we're looking at the elections, I think we're all wondering how things are going to look like the day after, November 6th. The election is going to be November 5th, and it will be a new era, regardless of who wins on the next day. And as far as the presidential elections, I think the most important issue for us is that you actually finally see candidates vying for the Muslim vote. I couldn't believe it when I couldn't believe it until I saw it with my own eyes. Here's Trump standing with imams. And whether we agree with Trump or not is another matter. But the fact that you have a presidential candidate standing with imams, trying to win their vote, trying to say things that, trying to please them, and then going to Dearborn and doing the same thing, forcing the Democrats to do more to align with our values. I think that's an important step. I've never seen it before. I don't know if you have. I have not. And so the Muslim vote is an issue for this election. And that means, and I'm not really concerned about this election as much as I'm concerned about the future. So we have to think about how do we leverage this for the future of our community, and more importantly, the future of our country. And so that to me is the most important thing. MPAC, the Muslim Public Affairs Council, did not endorse anyone. So we decided not to endorse. Instead, we decided to convene all the Muslim groups who did endorse. So you endorsed Harris, not that you did, but I'm just saying, you come over here. You endorsed Trump, you come over here. You endorsed Stein, you come over here. And let's all meet in one room. Instead of talking about each other, let's speak with one another. And so we did that, and you can watch it now on YouTube under Muslim Public Affairs Council, MPAC National, where we actually got people from the campaigns and we asked them, why should Muslims vote for you? Explain, just tell us. And so Harris would say, well, the other guy's worse than we are, and we got more representation of Muslims in this administration than anyone before, which is true. And we are for civil rights, and and yes, we know we have a long ways to go on Gaza, but we are working to do whatever we can on that, and so on and so forth. The Trump person said, Trump is not a man of war, he's a man of peace. And he's against all wars, and the first thing he'll do will end the war in Ukraine, because he's buddies with Putin, of course. And then after that, he'll focus on the Middle East, and he'll end the wars there, and you will see that the region will be more peaceful. And he cares about families, and parental rights, where schools are coming in and making decisions about sexual identity and things like that. So that's their argument. So, okay. And by the way, a lot of Pakistan, not a lot, but a significant number of Pakistani American groups are supporting Trump because they believe that he'll make a deal to release Imran Khan. So that's their thinking. And then you have Syrian Americans who believe that he will end the suffering of the Syrian people and get rid of the dictatorship. That's their reasoning. So that's why you have groups supporting Trump. And then you have Jill Stein's people who says she's the only one that aligns with our values in terms of being against what's happening in Gaza and arms embargo, and she's not influenced by Israel, except she's going to be the least likely of the three to win. But you have that argument. So what do we as Muslims do? I think we do what other communities do. Even if 90%, I remember in 2000, we endorsed George Bush over Al Gore because Al Gore would not meet with the Muslim community. And George Bush spoke on certain issues that we put out there. We said, if you address these issues, we'll consider endorsing you. So he did, and we endorsed him in 2000. And what happened was the Jewish community, to be more accurate, the pro-Israel community endorsed Gore, but Gore lost. Bush won. Even after endorsing Gore and 80% of the community supporting Gore because his running mate was Joe Lieberman, an Orthodox Jew, so a lot of them supported Gore. But afterwards, guess who got the appointments? Not us, but they did. They got appointments in the White House. They got people, because even when they have 80% supporting one candidate, 20% sticks around for the other candidate. And that 20% got in and they got appointed. For example, Elliot Abrams was the one who was appointed to run the National Security Council, and he became the architect of the Gulf War. So even though we endorsed Bush, we didn't get anything for it. And on top of that, the Gulf War and secret evidence and all the post 9/11 policies came under Bush. Then in 2020, we decided as a community to support Biden, and we endorsed Biden over Trump because of the 4 years that we had experienced under Trump. And we endorsed Biden. What did we get from Biden? Not much. We got the genocide in Gaza, and while he's saying, "Oh, we're going to stop war, and this is terrible," he continues to send arms that is killing people. And now you have the potential of a regional war, which could drag America into another set of endless wars in the Middle East, as if we've never learned anything from the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and what's happening even in Yemen and so on and so forth. So we endorsed Biden, didn't get anything for that. So why should we endorse? We should not allow people to take our endorsement for granted. It shouldn't be so cheap that we endorse without getting anything in return for the community. So that's why MPAC took the position of not endorsing, because we want these candidates to work harder for the Muslim vote. The most important thing then is not really who we endorse. The most important factor in every election is for people to see that the voting rate of the Muslim community is high. We should not be below 50%. We should be 70 or 80%. And when officials see, oh my God, in this district, we see that thousands of Muslims are voting, I better go and meet with them to see what they are concerned about and address those issues. And to do it over and over again so it becomes something that is consistent, something that is sustainable, something that is permanent, not just, we have a candidate here one time and he comes and he talks or she talks and it might sound good and then we never see them after that. And that requires institutional work, and therefore the organizations, MPAC, CARE, Engage, Black Muslim Leadership Council, all of these organizations, we need to support whichever one you want to support, and build the infrastructure to hold these officials accountable. And when they see that Muslims are voting, then they make promises. We need organizations to hold them accountable to those promises. That's, in a nutshell, the gist of how we are looking at the presidential elections. So I have become what I call being politically agnostic. I still believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but I do not believe in any candidate. In fact, no candidate, I've never seen a candidate that really cares about the party. The candidate cares about him or herself. The candidate becomes the party. They're not doing, for the sake of the party, I'm going to do A, B, or C. No, they're going to say, I'm going to do this, and then the party just follows them. So why should we be so beholden to any political party? Democrat, Republican, and what have you. I'm not saying be independent, but I'm just saying that for the community, and you can be independent, of course. I'm not saying that we have to, but you can be. What I'm saying is we should calculate, and as we said earlier, we bring all the people in the room. Okay, Trump people, here you are. Okay, Harris people, here you are. Okay, Stein people, here you are. Let's agree on what you're going to deliver to the Muslim community. That's MPAC's approach. And we'd like to go around and see if you have any thoughts on that or your own thoughts about the presidential elections and have a short discussion. Yes.
Do you have a thought regarding the elections?
Why don't you stand up and turn around so they can all hear you?
Yeah, so kind of one thing I try to do before the elections, and it's not just the presidential. I feel like the presidential elections are the easiest of all of them.
Yeah.
Whoever made the mind, they made a mind. That's my opinion. But it's more the other candidates that we don't know much about, right? And just going off the party affiliation now, I think it's a good indication based on all the chaos of what we hear. But it's more like we need some sort of resource. I don't know if that can help with that. That kind of tells you, don't not like how you should vote. It's more like how you think these people rated on these topics that matters most to the
Yeah.
community, right? So I felt like I went online, and surprisingly, the first result when I searched this way was, of course, that's how APEC grades people.
Yeah. The scorecard.
And he did a great job. Like this, and he didn't say vote for them. He said this person opposes Israel for this topic.
Right.
And he's spoken publicly on that date and that date specifically, and they have the proof about it.
Yeah.
Like we need to do this kind of homework if it's not out there. So if you know any of these resources, that would be helpful
Yeah.
to give people at least.
Yeah, I don't know of any right now. We used to do that. We just didn't have the capacity to do it this time. But we used to have a comparison on the issues. So when it comes to human rights, immigration, civil rights, education, healthcare, we would then give an analysis and a grade for each of the. We did that with Bush Gore. We did that with Obama and McCain and Obama and Romney, Biden and Trump, Trump and Clinton. We didn't do it this time, but we're gonna. We definitely. That's a good idea to.
Even for the local.
Yeah, because it makes people. You're not telling people how to vote, but you're letting people know what are the issues and the criteria that we should use in evaluating the members. And then on your issue of, it's not just about the presidential, because we have a number of local officials, like, for example, here, the district attorney's office. I think it's Hotchin, is that his name? Against Gascon. Very important race. And Gascon, a lot of people are criticizing him because they feel he's not doing anything. His challenger is going to be tough on crime. But is that going to mean we're going to go back to the prison pipeline? And one of the propositions is about the prison pipeline, to make petty theft now a felony, so that you're going to be sentenced for longer terms in prison. And we all know that means laws that are unjust because they are targeting the poor and the minorities. So I would think that we as a Muslim community would be opposed to increasing the sentencing of people in jails. That does not solve the problem, and it just reinforces the prison industrial complex that we already have in our, I think there's some audio problems. Yeah. Um, and then we also have, for example, we have a new chief of police. No, not Sean. Sean, if you could just stand up here. Sean is our Muslim brother who works for LAPD. Sean, thank you. And so we need to meet with the new chief of police. What about our students? Are you going to send police to every campus just because some pro-Israel group like the ADL is complaining that people are anti-Israel? Anti-Israel is not the same as anti-Semitism. I could be anti-Britain. I could be anti-France. I could be anti-Iran. I could be anti-Saudi Arabia. I could be anti-anything. I could be anti-American. That doesn't mean that you're against the people. But now anti-Israel means that you're against the whole religion? No, we don't accept that. And so we need to meet with the chief, because I know for a fact that campuses are being pressured by pro-Israel groups to clamp down on the students. And if you go to USC or UCLA, now they have security contractors, third party, not part of the university, but now they're paying for security people to say, where are you going, who's with you, why are you here, and so on and so forth. And you have to use cards at USC now to get in and out of buildings, and you're being monitored on a regular basis. And if you go and demonstrate, you have to demonstrate in a certain way. And if you don't do it that way, you might suffer a suspension or other things. So the student issue is still going to be a big issue after November 5. And that's why we need to meet with the local officials, starting with the police, and then the city council, and then the mayor, and then the members of Congress, and so on and so forth, to demand that they uphold what they're sworn to. It's called the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees the right of protest and the right of assembly and the right of speech, especially speech that is against the policies that we are witnessing today. So we will talk to them about upholding the constitutional values that they were sworn into in the first place. And we know the new chief, Jim McDonnell. He used to be sheriff. He was also an assistant chief when he was at LAPD. And he knows us. He's been here a number of times. So it's a good that we have that relationship to push back against any idea that LAPD will be used against our students. So we have that. Any other comments about the elections? Yes.
The checking everything.
The what?
That reminds me of a police state.
Yeah.
That's, to me, that's the same thing.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter whether they have guns or whatever. It's just the setup. Okay. Question. In other words, you say something, then it's a crime. Basically, that's what it is. You don't agree, it's a crime. What crime? You know what I mean? What crime was said?
Right.
Freedom of speech. I'm used to, and I still do it because I know how to do it. Some people don't know how. They get in a fight all the time.
Mhm.
I can say something, but I know how to shut up. I shut up. I'll say it. Boom, say it. And done. But a lot of people don't know how to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? There you go.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's a great point on the speech on our campuses, and now people are punished for their speech. And it's interesting because in the history of U.S. Campuses, every movement for human rights or civil rights started on a campus. So the anti-war movement started on U.S. campuses during Vietnam. And there were arrests, and there were also people killed. Kent State, there were, you see how they were also killed?
UCLA was one of the main places. Okay. Historically speaking, there are several colleges around the country like UCLA. Those colleges are the ones who actually push the stress on the federal government in the judicial. Okay, that's how strong they were in the civil rights movement.
Okay, got it. And then you have, so you have the anti-war movement, you have the civil rights movement, you have the anti-apartheid movement, you have the environmental justice movement, you have all these movements that swept through the campuses. and people protested. So protesting is not going to end now. This is a challenge to the tradition of campus. And by the way, a lot of the people who protested 30, 40 years ago and are now school administrators and members of Congress and political leaders. So it tells us, number one, that's hypocrisy on their part. Number two, it tells us the leaders on the student campuses today will be national leaders tomorrow. So if we want to think local, let's make sure we invest in defending, supporting, and even lifting these students on these campuses, because they will be very important. Once you're a leader, you can't get that out of you. You will be a leader whether you're at a campus or in a city, county, or the nation. And there will be that leadership rising from these student protests. Yes. Oh, wait for the microphone.
So I'm torn basically with voting this year. But I feel like a lot of them, the Muslim Ummah, most of them are not going to vote. They're going to stay out. But I say don't stay out of like, still vote local, because that's the most important thing. Even
Right.
if you don't vote,
Right.
like don't just sit out, because the local is going to make the big difference. Who's getting into Congress? Congress is making a lot of decisions on what's happening in our lives.
Yeah.
So make sure that you're going through those people who are running and you're doing some type of vote. Because even for me, like I want to vote, but I'm like, I can't just vote because, what's affecting us here in the United States. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going wrong, and there's, certain people are saying, yeah, we can help with these situations, but like we have to think like what's going on outside of the country, like are they going to support them? I don't want somebody in office that's not going to do that, but if we at least take the time to educate ourselves about locally and who's going to be in Congress, because there's a lot of seats that are going to be open this year. So make sure you take the time to educate yourself. There's videos, there's a lot of things on YouTube, but you can also read about it to go out and do the education and do some type of vote. Don't sit out completely out of it. Do not.
Thank you. And that goes to the point. We want to see a high Muslim voter turnout. And even if you don't like the top of the ticket, like you don't like Trump or Harris, number one, you can vote for Stein. If Stein achieves 5%, then third-party candidates will get federal funding the next cycle. So that is important to break the grip, the monopoly of the two-party system, that you don't have a choice. And anybody that challenges the establishment in those parties, they're usually just like Bernie Sanders was. They were kind of dismissed, and even there was some actions against them that they didn't get the support that actually was represented at the popular level. So we want third-party candidates. You can support them. So in California, because people say, well, if you vote for Stein in Michigan, that's a vote for Trump because you're taking away a vote for Harris. And so if you're of that mentality, that's fine. But in California, it doesn't matter, because already Harris is 30 points ahead or 20 points ahead, whatever. She's got a large lead. It's not going to make a difference. So we can vote for Stein in California. It will not be a vote for Trump. If you want to do that. Same thing in New York, Illinois, even Texas. I think you can go ahead and vote for that third-party candidate. But more importantly, if they see a decrease in Muslim voters, then the next time they're going to say, you know what, this community doesn't vote, so why should we even worry about them? We will worry about the communities that do vote. And guess which community votes? It's unfortunately the pro-Israel community, because to them it's in their blood, it's in their DNA, and to them it's a matter of survival. That's how we have to look at it. It's a matter of survival for us to go out and vote. And again, you don't have to vote for the top or vote for the third party, but at least vote for the propositions. At least vote for the city council. At least vote for the county district attorney, because that vote will make a difference in the future of our community. But if they see that Muslim voters is like 20% and other communities are 60, 70%, That's not going to do that. Will disempower our community. Another thing that people do is say, well, we'll form a PAC. So I hear that everybody now wants to form a political action committee, and they raise money. And I go, so how much did you raise? Oh, we raised $50,000. I said, well, APAC has $200 million. And so 200, you're fighting them on their strength. You should fight. If you want to fight, you fight on your strength, right? And that's where we should start analyzing where's our strength. Our strength is that the majority of the American public is on our side. Majority of the American public are finally seeing what we have been seeing all along, that this Israeli apartheid fascist genocidal regime that does not deserve our tax dollars. So we should engage other communities to form coalitions on that messaging instead of trying to think that we're going to do it by ourselves. The other side, by the way, they spend millions to recruit others to support their cause. So they recruit blacks and Hispanics and people of all backgrounds to support their position on being pro-Israel. Whereas I'll go to a Muslim community. How much money do you think Muslims spend on building mosques?
A lot.
Millions. How much we spend on relief, sending relief overseas?
Quite a bit.
Hundreds of millions, right? Okay, how much do we spend on civic engagement?
Very little.
Not civic engagement. How much do we spend on building coalitions? And yet in the Quran, when you think of the categories of zakat, one of the categories of zakat is soften the hearts of others. Allaf qulubahum. Right? So we can spend on engaging others with our zakat money. It's not, you help with the poor, you help free people, you help with the disadvantaged and the homeless and the refugees. And you can also use some of the money from our zakat to soften the hearts of others. And it's just amazing to me that we have it already in the Quran, and yet others are applying that, and we're not. They spend money to soften the hearts of others. We're not spending our share of softening the hearts of others. Because why do you do that? To build coalitions, to get them to support, understand, accept, and advocate on the issues that are common ground, like stopping this genocide. Then get more people, it's not just Muslims who are saying it, get more people now who are pushing back against Biden and Harris, and then if Trump wins, push back against that. It requires a popular movement, and that is our strength, but we're not utilizing it, and we have to think and analyze how to do that. Doing it with money is to our disadvantage, in my opinion. You got to spend some money, of course, but to think that you're going to outdo them by raising PAC money is not always it's not very effective. Yes.
Sorry, so how do we do that? Because I feel like a lot of our brothers and sisters in Islam, they're just like, we're gonna leave it to Allah, But we have to also do the groundwork. How do we educate those people that that don't even vote, and they're just like, I'm not in this, like it's affecting, like we're being affected as Muslims. So how do we get our masjids and other masjids to come together and build this coalition? Like, how do we do that? Because I have a hard time even telling certain people, like, go out and vote, because this is going to affect, all of us, It's not just that, but like, and we are the most targeted people, so it's like, how do we come together as a Muslim ummah and like move? Because like APAC is taking over the whole government, and they're really like, they're buying people. So we're fighting with money and a big machine. So
Right.
how do we get that going?
Well, I think first we need an attitude adjustment. We have to change our whole our perspective on the issue. And again, it's lessons that we have from our own faith that Islam teaches us. So, for example, we read the story of Musa and Pharaoh, Musa alayhi salam and Pharaoh, and there Pharaoh had what? He had a grip on society. He had the media. He had all the politicians. he was the tyrant. That's AIPAC, right? And what did Musa alayhi salam have? He had the truth. He had what was right. And the Quran says the future belongs to those who are conscious of God. And all he did is he stood up and he made it so that here's truth, here's falsehood. And what happened? Truth swallowed up falsehood. So we have to get out there and speak more and get out there and create our own platforms and build those coalitions. And in time, more and more people will see the truth, and that will swallow up falsehood. Number two, on the issue, how do you get others to do it? You do it, by example. It's not always, we can argue back and forth endlessly, and that doesn't help. You say, oh, you should do this and you should do that, da 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 da. But just creating the example, and again, the Prophet Muhammad alayhi was a perfect example of being the example, right? So, for example, in the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, a lot of the Muslims were somewhat discouraged by what was going on because they felt there were too many concessions that were made in the treaty. So, what did his wife tell him? Go out there and shave your head and do and sacrifice. So, in other words, go and lead by example, and others will follow, which is exactly what happened. And then they followed him, and then they moved on, and then later on, obviously, now we see the wisdom of why he did what he did. Whereas at that time, people were very probably paralyzed because they thought they were giving up too much. So sometimes, rather than arguing back and forth, you set the example and you move forward, and then it crystallizes to form a bigger crystal, and that's what will attract the good elements from our society. So MPAC, Islamic Center are designed for that coalition building. And whether it's a human rights coalition or a coalition for justice or coalition for interfaith engagement, we should look into all of these and build upon them. Because right now they exist and they need our support. And I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards to see how you can support them. Okay? Anybody else? Yes.
From my understanding, under the voter registration data, like religion is not listed.
Right.
Whereas if you're trying to say that the Muslims want to have a unified vote and to be taken seriously in the next election, you would want to have some type of data that quantifies that.
Right.
That you can show a politician saying, we have 20,000, 30, whatever the number is.
Right.
And that this voting population is going to vote this particular way.
Right.
From my understanding, I don't even know how many Muslims are in this country. I don't know what's the actual data.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't even seen any mosques try to get their, constituents to like get registered.
To what?
I haven't seen any movement from any mosques or any Muslim entity getting their participants, their congregates to get registered to vote and to vote a particular way. So if we're trying to empower our community, I don't see any.
Yeah.
I see a lot of talk, but I don't see a lot of action.
Yeah. I mean, we did. I mean, you're right. In general, that is a problem. Again, I have to say about this Islamic Center, we had a voter registration on the day of Eid, and we have it even now.
Yeah, we have voter registration.
So we have voter
forms,
registration. So we emphasize
the
voter
lobby.
registration. We cannot tell you who to vote for because we're a charity. It's a religious institution, and that would violate tax law to tell you, who to vote for, to endorse any candidate, to campaign for anybody. We can invite candidates, and there might be somebody coming today. I'm not sure. We've invited various candidates, and some of them will come and introduce themselves to you, and you can get to know them, and that's as much as we can do. As far as the data on Muslim votes, you're right. The government doesn't do it. The government does not give you data based on religion because it's against the First Amendment. So they can't ask about people's religion. However, we can do it ourselves. Like how do people know how many Jewish votes there are? Because AIPAC will say we have 5,000 votes in this district, and if you want those 5,000 votes, here this is what you need to do. Or even the Hispanic caucus or the Black caucus or whatever issue even the LGBTQ community will say, we have these many votes in this district, and you have to address these issues if you want us to hand over these names for you. And these are political action groups. So for our community, we have ISPU, Institute for Social Policy Understanding. They did an analysis on the Muslim vote. CARE has done some polls on Muslim voting. Engage was awarded a grant, $1 million, to get 1 million Muslim votes to go out and vote. So they have the database of these Muslim voters that we can work with to show these officials and candidates in the future, if you want these votes, then you need to address our issues. The problem is we got to make sure that the number of votes are high. They can't walk in with, oh, we got 5 votes in this district. Then you're going to be laughed at. But if you say we have, let's say, and most elections are determined by less than 10,000 votes locally. If you have that many votes, they will pay attention to you. And we've seen that already. And as I said at the beginning of this is the first time in the history of U.S. electoral politics that both candidates are competing for the Muslim vote. And Trump even went and stood with imams. He went to Dearborn yesterday, and he spoke with the Muslims there and Lebanese community. And Harris is trying to say, well, we do support the Muslim community by this and that. So we see that happening, and that's a big change. But that means that the voter turnout has to be high for our community in order to continue this to the next election cycle. Does that answer your question?
So there are groups that are collecting this data.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. They've collected the data. They've registered the voters themselves. They go and canvass, and they have that available. Yes.
Yeah. One of the questions asked, is that publicly available?
No. Oh, Rida is here. Rida, come on up. No, come and sit
Salam.
here.
So every year
Give that microphone back to Erica. Everybody, this is Rida Hamida, and she does, I forgot the organization's name, but Latina and Muslim Unity, and she does a lot of, we're talking local politics, you're perfect for that. She actually got over, I don't know how many, maybe up to 100 ceasefire resolutions adopted by city councils. So that's what I mean by grassroots work. And that's what I mean by, and she didn't just work with Muslims, she worked with others. So she knows how to build coalitions. Go ahead.
there are 13.
Okay.
1,300.
So it's a lot.
We did 16, but we spearheaded 13 of them. I do want to acknowledge first the question that was asked. You can hear me? You can hear me, right? Okay. So there are options to extract this data. There's this option for VAN, which is a political voter engagement app, and then there's also Political Data Inc. And if you go into these apps, they actually cost for each precinct about, I want to say, $300 to $400 to extract the voter engagement. So, like, if you voted in this past primary election and you vote in every election, including primary, you are considered a high propensity voter. And your ethnicity is there if you register and you put your ethnicity, if your country of origin, you input your country of origin. Also, there is an option for whether you're Muslim or not. So they actually can extract this data. So if you have voted in primary elections, you're considered like the creme de la creme of voters, because you're not only voting for general and presidential, you are the people that currently right now, everyone is going out to your doors. So if you notice that you get a lot of mailers, anybody? That's good. That means you vote. If you don't get mailers, there are about 4 or 5 of you, that means you don't vote, right? And there's a strategy for that. I was working for the last 20 years on voter engagement, and I could tell you, I have specifically seen Muslims say, I'm going to go door to door to support this one candidate for city council. Problem, you don't know if they vote. You have to have data to make sure that they vote. So if you're going to a person's house and you knock on their door and they're, a green card holder, for example, they're not eligible to vote, right? And so you don't want to waste your time just going door knocking because you want to do your part. You should always organize, check in with MPAC, check in with CARE, check in with different voter engagement processes so they can give you voter files and you can actually like knock on doors that are actual voters. So I want to make sure that you know that there's a strategy and everyone's data when you vote can be extracted. Another way to extract data that is public, you can go to your voter registrar's office. It's really daunting, but you can also go to your county voter registrar's office to extract data on your community or your precinct.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm still, the question I feel like it wasn't answered. Is it the validity of the data, right? Given that the religious affiliation is not part of what, when I filled when I got my citizenship, I filled my information for voting, it wasn't part of it. So what if it's like country of origin, like let's say Egypt, and they're Christians of Egypt, of course, or my kids, the country of origin or birth is the U.S. So how is it by last name or how does it work?
I just wanna-
Before she answers, I want to tell you a story. So in 1988, we were, it was the first time we actually organized to send delegates to a national political convention. And we got like 13 delegates. And so they thought we had like hundreds of delegates because they didn't know the difference between, like you said, who's Egyptian Christian, who's Egyptian Copt, who's Lebanese Maronite, who's Lebanese Muslim. So it's to our advantage when they think that we're bigger than what we are. So just keep that for the next time. Don't worry. In other words, don't worry too much about, that's not the Muslim figure. It's much lower than that. No. Just go along with it.
There are other options of how they merge data. So in these specific, like for example, voter registrars doesn't have whether you're Muslim or not. No. But in Political Data Inc., it's called PDI. They do because they merge data based on like healthcare data. So if you've ever received health services in county offices, they have your data too. So they merge the data between your voter data and your background. So that's why we're able to, and given this specific story, it's a beautiful story because I was actually sent to the DNC to be one of the speakers in 2016. And because I was part of this book called Brown is the New White, and we're considered all brown. It doesn't matter if we're light skinned, we're considered brown. And in that effort, in 2014, I was working on data analysis particularly with PDI. And you could look this up, Google PDI, you could see it. You do have to pay for it though. It was Orange County Labor Federation. They're very sophisticated. They're actually one of the best in voter engagements, and similar to the LA Labor Federation here. They're all the labor union folks. But they did not have the cultural lens of our community. So they hired me to be part of making sure the Muslim vote showed up, or what they would call the Arab vote, because they didn't even know, like in their minds, it's just Arabs. All Arabs are Muslims, right? And so I asked them, before I started working on PDI, I asked them, can you please give me all the data for Arabs in Anaheim, specific just to Anaheim? And then I said, and then give me also the data on Orange County. I want to see that data. So they pulled it, they gave me a Post-it and it said 525. I said, no way. There's only 525 voters that are Arabs in Anaheim. There's just no way. That's like, there's 13 voters in my parents' house. That's just impossible. So I went in, I said, can I learn how to, and this is 2014, can I learn how to use this? And then can I extract the data? So I start looking at the data and it says Yemeni. It says Moroccan. It says, Saudi Arabian. I'm like, wow, this is really specific. I start pulling all these numbers, Lebanese, Syrian, Palestinian even. And then all of a sudden it was 27,000. And that's in Anaheim. That was back in 2014. And guess what? In Orange County, they gave me a number of 1,700. And I pulled it was 145,000 voters. So it's important to know that your data is being registered, specifically when we're going to these elected officials, and local elected officials are even more powerful than higher ups. Let me give you an example. Your city council, I don't know if you spoke about this. Did you speak about this?
I don't know what you're asking.
Oh, okay. Did you speak about the city, how it has like more power than even like Congress?
I alluded to that, but you can elaborate.
Okay. Your city council has more power than your congressional reps. Your congressional reps only have power, they're one vote out of 435 votes in the whole country. Okay, yes, they're supposed to bring money to your city. They're supposed to advocate for federal dollars to go to your city. But that's pretty much all the impact that they have. And out of all this year, only 4 bills were passed at the federal level. Okay? In the city level, every single day there are new policies that, or every 2 weeks, there are there's new policies that are being voted upon that impact your life. For example, your member of Congress, if you have an issue with the street light, if you have an issue with your pothole, you can't call your member of Congress unless the city is not listening to you. They are the last resorts. And I know this because I worked for a state legislator and I worked for a member of Congress, and we were the last resort. County Board of Supervisors, Orange County Board of Supervisors, LA County they actually have more power than members of Congress, than your city council, because they're the ones that bring in the number of housing vouchers. They're the ones that bring in the number of how much money your city is going to get spent on health, on city resources. And so they're the ones that a lot of times members of Congress leave their spot to run for Board of Supervisor because they're 1 out of 14 votes, and they really impact your daily life.
Okay, I think they're looking at us that it's time for prayer.
Quickly,
So
if
we're
I
going to
may.
have one last question, and then we'll
It's
wrap it
not
up.
a question, it's more of a comment. This whole
Yeah.
conversation got me thinking. And we have an issue of I'm a Palestinian, I'm a Moroccan, I'm Saudi Arabian. In order for us to change how we are counted, I think in the category of ethnicity, we should write what we are supposed to write. Muslim, because we are a nation. Muslim, once you stop adding Muslim in the category of other, that's when we gotta start being
Okay.
counted.
Sure.
So
We'll take that into consideration.
I have decided from now on it's going to be other and it's going to be
Yeah.
Muslim.
That's how they're gonna put it, as other, because they don't count religion as ethnicity. But any case, we hear what you're saying. Well, we're gonna wrap it up, and as soon as we wrap it up, 5 hands go up.
Because I showed up.
Yeah, because you showed up, because we covered a lot today. Anyway, I think that there are 2 points here. Number one, it's voter turnout more important than endorsement. When they see Muslim voter turnout, 60, 70, 80%, people will pay more attention. They will respect us. The biggest problem with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they don't respect us. They think they can just go and do things and take us for granted. Trump is playing the game, based on the mistakes that Biden and Harris have made. So we need to establish respect first. Number 2, on the issue of how do we get the Muslim votes, we have to do it ourselves. Rida gave you a very important way of doing it. It just comes back to us getting our people registered, getting our names and our people out of these databases, and then using them in future elections. And as she said, we want to emphasize the local elections are more important than who's at the top of the ticket for us, especially at this time. Rida, why don't you close, and then I have a special presentation to make. So just hold on to your seats before you go. But you can
Okay.
close, and I'll make that presentation.
So I wanted to emphasize on voting, even if you don't care about the presidential election, because to be honest, the presidential election in California, if you're a voter in California, it doesn't matter. But if you have a council member, a Congress member, a county official, a school board member, they matter. And if you don't vote, what they're going to do is they're going to see you. Like I said, they pay attention to when do you vote? Do you vote during only presidential? Do you vote only primary? Do you only vote general? When do you vote? When you're going to a council member and they're not listening to you, it's because they think that you don't vote. They think, oh, I don't have to listen to this person. I've looked at their voted data, the vote in, like, say, Claremont. I've seen only like 0.04% of the Muslims vote in my city. So I'm not going to listen to them. So please make sure you vote, at least to show that you're voting. They don't even see what you vote for. Do you know that? They don't see that you vote for them, or who you're voting for, whether you're voting for a county or a Congress or a city council member, but they saw that you turned in your ballot. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Let's give her a hand for Rida. Excellent. Thank you for coming. And she's very busy between now, I'm sure, and Tuesday night. So,
Yes.
and she has probably an election party. And
I have an election party Tuesday night. If you guys want, in Culver City at Jackson Market, we're hosting an event. Please don't be alone on election night.
all right. And then Erica, could you come up here? You know, one of the things we have to be grateful for is the work that a number of our staff do to organize, to get us the good food. Of course, as soon as I get here, all the food is gone. But still, all the work that goes into making this a clean place, making this organized, fixing the audio system, doing all that, getting speakers, harassing me about what I'm going to talk about. All that good stuff is done by Erica. So I want to give an award.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Muslim Public Affairs Council Community Service Award presented to Erica Schley in recognition of your unwavering dedication and tireless efforts delivered with grace. Isn't she graceful? And positivity, embodying the spirit of service. Thank you for being a pillar of support and source of inspiration to us all. November 2024.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
You want to hold it? You want to take your picture?
Okay. Thank you. I was not expecting that.
It's okay.
Thank you.
I hope
I'm
you're not
honored.
thinking about running for office because you're going to take a picture with me right now. All right.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
everybody.
much.
You know, it broke, and I have to
Oh, that's okay.
fix it. You want to keep it, and then we'll just make a new one.
Okay.
I don't know if they do it so that they. Thank you. Salam alaikum.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank Brother Salam Al-Marayati so much for this inspiring presentation. And what's her name?
Ra'ida.
And Raida, thank you so much, Sister Raida, also. And please join us for Doha prayer in the prayer hall. And afterwards, we're going to have our sports day outside and also upstairs for ping pong. So please join us for that. And please come back next Sunday at 12 p.m. for a Sunday program. We're having another special program. Next week will be Domestic Violence Awareness with Dr. Shamim Ibrahim and Niswa.